We're checking out this sweet 1966 Chevy C10 I found on Craigslist for $15,000. Let me tell you, these classic C10s have such a fantastic presence on the road, and this one's rocking a beautiful custom maroon paint job that really makes it stand out. Under the hood, you're getting that classic 327 V8 engine, which is a solid power plant for these trucks. They've modernized it a bit with a 700R4 automatic transmission, which is actually a pretty smart upgrade. You get better highway cruising capability and improved fuel economy compared to the original transmission. Now let's be real here. The odometer shows 34,000 miles, but it has rolled over, so we're looking at 134,000 plus actual miles. But hey, that's not unusual for a truck from '66. The good news is that this C10 has been restored and comes with some nice upgrades like power steering and a brake system featuring front disc brakes and rear drums. Definitely a welcome safety improvement over the original all-drum setup. For $15,000, considering the current classic truck market, this long wheelbase C10 seems fairly priced, especially with the restoration work and upgrades. The clean title is definitely a plus, and these trucks are known for their reliability and relatively simple maintenance. Just remember, like any classic vehicle, you'll want to do a thorough in-person inspection before pulling the trigger. But overall, this looks like a solid example of a beloved American classic that you could either enjoy as is or continue to improve over time. These C10s are just getting more popular every year, and it's easy to see why. 2. We're looking at a 1982 Chevy S10 that's listed for $3,800. Let me be straight with you. This is an interesting find from the first generation of S10s, but there are some things we need to talk about. First off, we're dealing with a V6 model with 235,000 miles on the clock. That's a lot of miles, folks. No sugarcoating it. The seller mentions it runs and drives, which is good, but at this mileage, you should expect some wear and tear. It's wearing a red paint job, and while the condition is listed as good, let's be realistic about a 40-year-old truck with this many miles. The seller's including some extra parts like door panels and trim, which could be valuable if you're looking to do some restoration work. It's got the automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive setup, which is pretty standard for these trucks. The clean title is definitely a plus. Now, let's talk value. $3,800 firm might seem a bit steep considering the mileage, but first-gen S10s are starting to gain some attention as collectibles. However, you'll want to thoroughly check for rust and mechanical issues, as these trucks are known to have their fair share of age-related problems. Being honest here, this isn't a pristine show truck. It's a survivor with high miles that could either be a decent daily driver project or a restoration candidate. If you're mechanically inclined and love these early S10s, it might be worth checking out. Just go in with realistic expectations and remember that any 40-year-old truck will need some TLC. 3. We're looking at something really special. A 1981 Chevy Silverado C20 that's listed for $20,000, and let me tell you, this one's got my attention for all the right reasons. This is one of those rare finds where you can tell there's real love in the restoration. We're looking at a white C20 packing that monster 454 big block V8 paired with a freshly built turbo 400 transmission. That's a bulletproof powertrain combo right there. The seller mentions the transmission has only about 3 hours of runtime since the rebuild, which is practically brand new. What's really catching my eye here is the condition. The seller's being upfront about everything. They mention it's insanely clean with no rust in the usual trouble spots, which is huge for a truck of this age. It's sitting on original factory wheels with brand new tires that haven't even touched pavement yet. There's a new alternator too, and they're honest about the fuel sending units likely needing replacement. That's a relatively minor fix for a truck this clean. The story behind the sale is unfortunately touching. It was meant to be a project with a father-in-law who passed away unexpectedly. You can tell this isn't just another flip. There's real emotion involved here. For $20,000 firm, considering today's classic truck market and the condition described, this actually seems pretty fair. We're talking about a restored C20 with a big block, fresh transmission, and no rust. That's a rare combination. These square-body Chevys are absolutely skyrocketing in value, and clean examples like this are getting harder to find. 4. We're checking out a pretty special 1971 Ford F100 Sport Custom that's listed for $20,500, and this one's got an interesting story behind it. Let's dive right in. We're looking at a Survivor with 88,195 original miles, still running its original 360 cubic inch V8 and manual transmission combo. That's pretty remarkable for a 50-plus-year-old truck. What makes this even more special is that it's been garage kept and still has its original plywood bed floor and topper. That's the kind of originality that collectors go crazy for. Now, I've got to be straight with you folks. The seller is honest about this truck needing a little TLC to make it a showstopper. That's important to note at this price point. This isn't a fully restored show truck, but rather a solid project that needs some attention to reach its full potential. The emotional aspect here is significant. This was a father's project truck that's now looking for a new caretaker. These kinds of vehicles often come with the kind of care and maintenance that you hope for in a classic. At $22,500, we're in serious collector territory. While that might seem steep to some, the market for original garage-kept F100s from this era has been climbing steadily. The low original mileage, clean title, and original components definitely add value, but you'll want to factor in the cost of any improvements you're planning to make. 5. We're looking at a 1976 GMC Jimmy 4R4 that's listed for $12,000, and let me tell you, this one's got a bittersweet story, but seems to be a really solid build. The sellers put some serious work into this classic Jimmy, and it's worth noting what's been done here. We're talking about a freshly rebuilt 350 V8, which is a great, reliable power plant for these rigs. The interior's been completely redone, and they've tackled what's usually the biggest headache with these old Jimmys, the rust issues. They've gone the extra mile with some modern touches too, adding Dakota digital instruments and a painless wiring harness, which is a smart upgrade that really brings the electrical system into the modern era. The truck's wearing a fresh blue paint job and sitting on new tires. Plus, it's got that desirable 4x4 setup with an automatic transmission. That's a combo that's getting harder to find in good condition these days. Now, I've got to be real with you. The $12,000 asking price seems pretty fair considering all the work that's been done, and unfortunately, the seller is in a tough spot having lost their job. They're mentioning they're open to reasonable offers, which might present an opportunity for the right buyer. These 70s Jimmys are really coming into their own in the collector market, especially restored examples like this one. They've got that classic squared-off styling that's so popular right now, and with the rebuilt drivetrain and modern upgrades, this could be a reliable weekend warrior that you could actually use and enjoy. 6. We're checking out a pretty sweet 1985 Chevy C10 that's listed for $13,500, and this one's got some interesting features that make it stand out from the crowd. First off, we're looking at what appears to be a true Survivor truck with its original black paint, which is pretty remarkable for a vehicle pushing 40 years old. It's got 99,000 miles on the clock, and being California-owned since new is a huge plus. That usually means minimal rust issues compared to trucks from other regions. The current owner's given it some modern flair with a 2 to 4 inch lowering job and fresh 20-inch wheels and tires, which really updates the look while keeping that classic square body style that everyone's going crazy for these days. Under the hood, you've got the V8 paired with an automatic transmission, and they've done some recent maintenance including new spark plugs, wires, fluids, and a fresh battery. Now, let's be real about the price. $13,500 for an unrestored square body might seem steep to some, but these trucks have been shooting up in value lately. The fact that it's an original paint survivor with documented California history does add significant value. Plus, it's already got the lowered stance that many buyers are looking for, saving them the hassle and expense of doing it themselves. What's particularly appealing here is that you're getting a clean, straight square body that's been maintained but not over-restored. It's still got that original character that's getting harder to find. The 2WD setup makes it a perfect candidate for a street truck, and the recent maintenance suggests it's ready to drive and enjoy. 7. We're looking at something pretty special, a 1985 Chevy C10 Silverado short bed that's listed for $20,500, and let me tell you why this one's catching attention. This is a two-owner truck that's been given some serious attention to detail. What really stands out is that it still has its original pre-delivery inspection papers and owner's manual in the glove box. That's the kind of documentation that serious collectors absolutely love. We're looking at a rebuilt 350 engine, and while the odometer has rolled over, the overall condition suggests this truck's been well cared for. The modifications are tastefully done. They've shaved the drip rails for a cleaner look, added custom 20-inch rally-style wheels, and kept the bed rails smooth. But what's really impressive is the mechanical attention. New tie rods, ball joints, fresh alignment, and brand new Toyo tires. The AC blows cold, which is huge for these older trucks, and it's got the desirable tilt steering wheel option. Now let's talk about that $29,500 price tag. Yes, it's steep for an 85 C10, even in today's hot market. But we're looking at what appears to be an exceptionally clean example with documented history and some desirable upgrades. These square-body Silverados, especially short beds, have become serious collector items. 8. We're looking at a seriously impressive 1972 Chevy C10 step-side short bed that's listed for $29,000, and this one's got some serious credentials that make it special. Let's start with what makes this truck unique. It's got its original build sheet and was built in Fremont, which is awesome documentation for a 50-year-old truck. But what's really going to get your attention is what's under the hood. We're talking about a blueprinted 383 stroker, pushing out 441 horsepower. And they've got the dyno sheets to prove it. That's some serious muscle, folks. The power is being handled by a built turbo 350 transmission, and it's got a 12-bolt rear end with posi traction. That's basically the holy grail of Chevy rear ends. They've also added power steering and front disc brakes, which make this powerful truck much more manageable to drive. The step-side short bed configuration is one of the most desirable body styles for these C10s, and while the odometer shows 5,000 miles, it is rolled over. The truck's wearing a blue paint job and comes with a clean title. Now, about that $29,000 asking price. In today's market, considering the documented build sheet, the professionally built stroker motor with dyno proof, and all the premium upgrades, it's actually in line with what these high-end C10s are bringing. This isn't just a restored truck, it's a performance-built machine with paperwork to back it up. 9. We're checking out a pretty interesting 1967 Chevy C20 Custom Camper Special that's listed for $13,500. And let me tell you why this one's worth talking about. What we've got here is a heavy-duty C20 with the desirable Custom Camper Special package, powered by the reliable 327 V8 paired with an automatic transmission. The odometer shows 70,000 miles, and it's wearing a black paint job. These C20s were built tough from the factory, designed to handle the extra weight of campers and heavier loads than their C10 siblings. Now, I've got to be straight with you. The seller's description is pretty brief, which means you'll definitely want to do a thorough inspection in person. However, they do state that it runs and drives great, which is always good to hear with a 56-year-old truck. The clean title is definitely a plus. At $13,500 with best offer considered, the price point seems reasonable in today's market for a running and driving 67 C20, especially with the Custom Camper Special package. These trucks are getting harder to find, particularly in good running condition, and they're starting to gain more attention from collectors. What's particularly cool about these C20 Camper Specials is that they came with beefed-up suspension components and often had additional cooling capacity, features that make them more durable for regular use today. The 327 V8 is a solid engine choice, known for good power and reliability. 10. We're looking at a pretty interesting 1974 Dodge D100 Power Wagon that's listed for just under $10,000, and this one's got some features that make it stand out from the crowd. First off, this isn't your typical D100. It's a Power Wagon with 4x4 and locking hubs, which makes it a much more desirable model. Under the hood, you've got the trusty 318 V8 paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. That's a robust, reliable powertrain combo that these trucks are known for. The odometer shows 79,000 miles, And it's wearing what appears to be an eye-catching orange paint with a gray interior. Now, let's be completely honest here. It has a rebuilt title due to a bed replacement. While that's not ideal for collectors, it's actually pretty common for these old trucks to need bed work, and at least they're upfront about it. The seller claims there's zero rust, which is a big deal for these old Dodges, and they've put new tires on it. At $9,995, considering it's a 444 Power Wagon that's running and driving well, the price seems pretty fair in today's market, even with the rebuilt title. These Power Wagons are getting harder to find, especially ones that are rust-free and mechanically sound. What makes this truck particularly interesting is the combination of the manual transmission and 4x4 setup. That's a configuration that many enthusiasts prefer for its reliability and control. The 318 engine is known for being nearly bulletproof when maintained properly. 11. We're looking at something pretty special, a 1974 Ford F-250 Highboy that's listed for $10,000. And let me tell you, this is one of those trucks that really gets Ford fans excited. What we've got here is a true highboy, which means it's pre-1977 with that distinctive factory lift, packing some serious muscle with its 460 big block V8 and C6 automatic transmission. That's a powertrain combo that's practically bulletproof. The seller's done some important mechanical work, including new bearings front and rear, and they've upgraded to an Edelbrock 4-barrel carburetor, which should help that big 460 breathe better. The odometer shows 46,000 miles, but has rolled over, which is expected for a truck of this age. What's really catching my attention is the claim that it's rust-free. That's huge for these old Fords, as they were notorious for rust issues. Being a 4x4 long bed with the mighty 460, this is essentially a heavy-duty workhorse that can handle just about anything you throw at it. Now, at $10,000, considering today's market for highboys, especially rust-free examples, this actually seems like a pretty fair deal. These trucks have a strong following, and finding one with the desirable 460 C6 combo that's rust-free isn't easy anymore. The seller mentions that both the engine and 4x4 system work great, though you'll want to note it's got drums all around. That was standard for the era, but something to keep in mind if you're planning to use it regularly. The yellow paint gives it that classic 70s look that these trucks wear so well. 12. We're checking out something really unique, a 1979 Chevy Custom that's listed for $14,244, and this isn't your average square-body Chevy. What makes this truck special is its custom rear-end setup using J.C. Whitney adapters from the 70s and GM fenders to create a dually look without actually being a dually. That's some old-school customizing right there. The seller's done some serious work to make this thing ride right, with all new suspension brakes and steering components. They've given it that perfect stance with drop spindles, cut coils up front, and an axle flip in the rear. Under the hood, you're getting a GM Goodwrench 350 with only about 10K miles on it, paired with a freshly remanufactured TH350 transmission. That's a reliable combination that should run forever with proper maintenance. The comfort factor hasn't been overlooked either. We're talking about a new seat with fresh foam and upholstery, new rubber mat, door cards, and dash components. The frame's been powder-coated, which is a serious upgrade for longevity. Now, $14,444 might seem steep at first glance, but consider what you're getting. A unique custom build that's had practically everything refreshed or replaced. The seller makes a good point about this being an alternative to a traditional dually. You get the look without the downsides of poor fuel economy and harsh ride. 13. We're looking at a seriously impressive 1965 Chevy C20 that's listed for $24,000, and let me tell you why this one's special. This truck has a fantastic story and build history. It was restored back in 1985 by the owner's uncle, who was a metal worker. And here's what's really important. No Bondo was used in the restoration. That's huge because it means all the metal work was done properly. The truck's been babied since the restoration, rarely seeing rain or even a car wash, which explains its excellent preservation. Under the hood, there's a seriously built 350 V8 with only 5,000 miles on it. We're talking about a 4-bolt main block bored .030 over. comp cam, new lifters, double roller timing chain, ARP head studs, and Summit 202 heads. That's a proper performance build. It's paired with the original 4-speed manual transmission, which is a desirable combo for these trucks. The current owner has made some smart upgrades. They've added AC, which works great, and in the last couple years, they've installed new tires, brakes, grille, radiator, front bumper, and exhaust system. The truck's got a subtle 2.4-inch drop using C10 springs, giving it that perfect stance without going overboard. At $24,000, while it's not cheap, you're getting what appears to be an exceptionally well-built and maintained C20 with documented history and proper metalwork. The seller claims it's the best original sheet metal you'll find, and given the detailed description and care history, that might not be an exaggeration. 14. We're looking at a 1976 GMC K15 Sierra that's listed for $4,900, and I've got to be straight with you about this one. Let's start with the good stuff. This is a highly optioned truck from the factory, featuring 4WD, AC, factory locking differential, and fuel tank skid plates. It's got the reliable 350 V8, paired with the turbo hydromatic transmission, and being a long bed K15, it's got good bones for a project. There's a 2-inch body lift installed, and it's wearing its original paint, which helps you see exactly what you're dealing with. Now, here's where we need to get real. This truck hasn't run since 2018, so we're talking about 5 years of sitting. The seller's honest about rust spots being present, and the seat needs reupholstering. This is definitely a project truck, not something you're going to drive home and start using right away. At $4,900, and they're open to offers, you're basically buying a project-grade K15 with some desirable factory options. The price point seems reasonable for what it is, especially considering today's market for square-body trucks. But remember, you'll need to factor in the cost of getting it running again, addressing the rust and interior work. What's particularly valuable here is the honesty in the listing. They're not trying to hide anything. The truck still wears its original paint with no bodywork, so you can see exactly what you're getting into. The clean title is already notarized, which is a plus for the paperwork side of things. 15. We're checking out a 1977 Chevy El Camino that's listed for $12,000, and let me tell you about this interesting car-truck hybrid. This El Camino is showing 63,000 miles and comes with what appears to be the stock motor, though they've added some nice touches like headers and a custom exhaust system that the seller says gives it a sweet sound. They've dressed it up with some chrome wheels, size 10s, which is a nice touch on these classic body lines, and it's wearing a black paint job. The seller mentions it got a tune-up last year and runs smooth with good tires all around. It's got the automatic transmission and the V8 engine, which is a comfortable cruising combination for these El Caminos. Now, let's be real about the $12,000 asking price. They're noting it's OBO, or best offer, which suggests some flexibility. In today's market, El Caminos from this era have been gaining popularity, especially clean examples. The description is pretty brief, which means you'll definitely want to do a thorough in-person inspection to check for any typical 70s GM issues like rust or wear. What's cool about the 77 El Camino is that it combines the comfort and driving characteristics of a Chevelle with pickup truck utility. These vehicles are becoming increasingly popular as classic car investments because they're unique. Not quite a car, not quite a truck, but somehow both at the same time. 16. We're looking at a pretty sweet 1968 Chevy El Camino that's listed for $20,000. And this one's got some serious upgrades worth talking about. First off, what makes this El Camino special is its GM crate motor. That's a factory-fresh engine from General Motors, not some rebuilt mystery motor. It's paired with a 350 automatic transmission, which is a reliable combination that makes this classic a comfortable cruiser. The sellers added some important safety and comfort upgrades, including 3-point seat belts, a big improvement over the original lap belts, and a vintage air system that's blowing cold. That's huge for a classic car. The mechanical upgrades continue with power steering and front disc brakes, which make this El Camino much more manageable in modern traffic. They've also added a tilt steering column for better comfort. The Positraction rear end is a desirable feature that helps put the power down effectively. What's particularly noteworthy is that the bed is in excellent condition. Often these El Camino beds show significant wear or damage, so finding one that's clean is a big plus. The blue paint looks sharp on these 68 body lines, and with 100,000 miles showing, it's been used but not abused. At $20,000, considering the GM crate motor, upgraded safety features, working AC and overall condition, the price seems fair in today's market. These 68 El Caminos are becoming increasingly collectible, especially well-maintained examples with desirable upgrades. 17. We're looking at a 1983 GMC CK pickup that's listed for $6,800, and I've got to be straight with you about what we're dealing with here. Let's start with the powerhouse under the hood. This truck's packing a 454 big block V8 paired with the legendary Turbo 400 transmission. That's a seriously robust powertrain combo that's earned its bulletproof reputation. The seller's honest about the truck's condition, listing it as fair, and there are some things you need to know. The odometer's showing 172,469 miles, but it's broken, so the actual mileage is unknown. However, the seller mentions there's no road rust, which is a big plus for a truck of this age. It's a 4-door model, which is less common and adds some practicality, and they say it's got excellent tires. Now for the reality check, the AC doesn't work, which is something you'd need to factor into your budget if you want to fix it. The truck's wearing white paint, and while it runs good according to the seller, you're looking at a vehicle that's showing its age. At $6,800, you're basically paying for a solid running big block truck with a proven transmission. The price seems reasonable considering the 454 TH400 combo alone, especially if it's truly rust-free. These powertrains are getting harder to find, and when properly maintained, they can run forever. 18. Let me tell you about this sweet 1970 GMC C20 I found on Craigslist. This is one of those action line trucks that GM really nailed between 67 and 72, and let me tell you, this one's a beauty. The seller's got it listed at $27,180, and honestly, for what you're getting, that's worth considering in today's market. What we're looking at here is a beautifully restored C20 with fresh chrome work, new paint, redone interior, and sweet new wheels. Under the hood, you've got the reliable 350 Ci V8 paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. That's the kind of combination that'll put a smile on your face every time you drive it. Look, I've got to be straight with you. These C20s were workhorses back in the day, and finding one in this condition is getting harder and harder. Most of them were beaten up on farms and construction sites, but this one's been given the love it deserves. The Haggerty values on these trucks have been climbing steadily over the last decade, and it's not hard to see why. What makes this truck special is that perfect blend of classic styling and practical usability. The wide-side body style is particularly desirable, and with all the restoration work that's been done, you're looking at a truck that's ready to turn heads at car shows or cruise nights. 19. We're checking out this 1982 Ford Bronco that's caught my eye at $6,000. Let me tell you, these early 80s Broncos are becoming increasingly desirable, and this one's got some interesting features to discuss. We're looking at a blue Bronco powered by the 5.0L V8. That's the 302 for you Ford enthusiasts, paired with an automatic transmission and 4-wheel drive, a classic combination that made these Broncos so popular. The seller states it's in good condition and, importantly, it runs and drives, which is always a good starting point for any classic SUV. At $6,000, we're in reasonable territory for a running driving Bronco from this era. These vehicles were built tough, and the 5.0 engine is known for its reliability and easy maintenance. The clean title is definitely a plus here. Look, I've got to be honest with you. At this price point, you're not getting a show car, but rather a solid, usable classic SUV. These third-gen Broncos are becoming harder to find in original condition, especially ones that are still running and driving. They're fantastic platforms for both restoration projects and daily drivers, with plenty of aftermarket support still available. For anyone looking to get into classic 4x4s without breaking the bank, this could be a decent entry point. Just remember, You're buying a 40-year-old vehicle, so expect to do some maintenance and possibly some repairs along the way. But with its robust drivetrain and simple mechanics, it's a great vehicle to learn on and enjoy while you own it. 20. We've got a sweet ride from the good old days, a 1980 Chevrolet C10 that's been given a new lease on life. This short bed beauty has been swapped with a 5.3L LS Vortec engine, making it a real beast on the road. Now, I've got to be straight with you. The seller says this truck has clocked 100,000 miles, but with the engine swap, it's like a whole new animal. The headers, K&N air filter and dual exhaust make this C10 roar like a lion. It's built to be a daily driver, so you know it's reliable. The seller also mentions that the brake lines, master cylinder, and calipers were just done in November, so you can feel confident hitting the streets. And check out those American racing wheels. They give this classic a modern, sporty vibe. Under the hood, the spark plugs and wires have been taken care of, so this truck is ready to fire up every time you turn the key. The automatic transmission makes it a breeze to drive, whether you're cruising around town or hitting the highway. Now, I've got to admit, the seller doesn't mention anything about the body or interior condition, but from the looks of it, this C10 seems to be in solid shape. The clean title is in hand, so you can trust that this is a legit deal.